leadership is defined by Ian Cheshire, former chief executive of Kingfisher, as getting people to go where they wouldn't have gone on their own. Having considered where we need to get to in Unit 1, a sustainable economy, this module explores the nature of the leadership required to get there. Dame Polly Curtis has worked for nearly 30 years in the field of leadership in the context of sustainable development. She has been at the forefront of developing leaders' understanding of global challenges and opportunities, and encouraging and inspiring progressive, ambitious and courageous leadership in both business and government. Today, I'll be speaking to Dame Polly to hear about why leadership is so integral to achieving a sustainable economy, and the importance of both individual and organisation leadership in order to drive system-level change. Polly, we're here to talk about leadership. In the context of sustainability, why is leadership so important?
Well, I suppose when you consider the sheer scale and the enormity of the challenges that we look at in the context of sustainability, it's very evident very quickly that what we really are going to need to do is to drive profound change. And in any society, it's also very obvious that you need strong leadership if you're going to drive that change. So from the point of view of sustainability, I think that we need leadership that can not only make that change happen, but make it happen in a way that is exciting and inspiring, because it is going to require us to do things very, very differently from the way we've done them to date. And you can't drive that through by force. You have to actually bring people with you. You have to make it feel like this is a new way of doing things that has some wonderful opportunities deeply embedded within it.
Let's talk a little bit more about the nature of the leadership that's required then. Where do you see it needing to take place?
Well, we know where some of the real opportunities lie for driving change. Clearly, in the political sphere, we need very strong leadership. We need leadership in our communities and our societies. But in the context of this course, we know that business has a profoundly important role to play, and that means we need to look to those business leaders, the leaders who have so much power and influence right the way around the world, to bring about change in their own organisations. But of course, we're very clear that we're not just looking for heroic leadership from sort of man on a white charger. What we're really looking for is leadership throughout our organisations. We're looking for people in all spheres of their work life to recognise where the risks lie, but also to recognise where the opportunities lie, and to bring their own particular personal brand of leadership and opportunities for leadership through their daily lives.
And with that in mind, do you think there's anything distinctly different about the leadership at an individual level that's required to bring about sustainability outcomes? How is it different, if at all, from traditional approaches to leadership?
Well, at one level, good leadership is good leadership wherever you see it and in whatever context. But I suppose there are some things which we regard as really critical if you're going to be a good leader in the face of these sustainability challenges. And in that sense, context is absolutely key. Understanding the world in which you're doing business, understanding the world in which you are leading organisations and individuals is crucially important if you're going to be a good leader to drive the kind of change that we need. But I think it is also important to recognise that some of the qualities of leadership that are going to be required require quite a lot of, certainly require vision. You really need to be able to envisage another way of doing things, another more prosperous and profitable world that also takes into account the natural environment and social justice in societies all around the world. So a powerful vision of what an alternative future might look like. And I suppose that will require quite a lot of courage. We think that being able to articulate that, sometimes against the sort of the dominant worldview, means people who are going to take that on often have to be willing to perhaps go against the grain. Many other qualities, the ability to be inclusive, to bring people with you, but I often think that vision and courage is a really important starting point. I think one of the crucial qualities that we observe in leaders who've really been able to drive things forward is the ability to see the whole system, to see their position in the system, and to navigate through those complex terrains where you need to involve so many other stakeholders, so many other dimensions of the debate, really understand other people's perspectives, and to be able to deal with the complexity that arises from that. It's been a very important quality, and it goes hand in hand with the ability to think long term, because many of the consequences of the actions that are taken today won't really play out until a long time into the future. So that ability to see the big picture, to see the whole system, both now, because there are immediate consequences for most actions, and in the long term where some of the benefits will flow, has been a hallmark of some of the best leaders that I have seen out there.
And do you have examples of where you've seen that, either at an organisational level or even just in a sort of quite a small scale?
Well, in classic sustainability terms, there are the real iconic examples that we so often hear about, the Unilevers, the Interfaces, the Marks and Spencer's Plan A, some wonderful examples of early adopters, I suppose, of this idea that sustainability is good for business as well as being good for society. But I think what's exciting now is to see just how many businesses, large and small, all around the world, are seeing an opportunity for adopting sustainability principles as a core driver for a different kind of business, really thinking differently. Some wonderful examples in the car manufacturing business, but also in companies that are trying to bring the principles of the circular economy right into the heart of their business. There are some classic examples of the disruptives, companies that are introducing radical innovation to the heart of their business model. So I suppose what we're seeing at the moment is opportunities emerging all over the place, not just in these small disruptive innovation initiatives, but in big turning big tankers around, if you like, to try to drive change from within a business, where you're starting to see intrapreneurship as well as entrepreneurship in all the big companies, whether they are in the food producing companies, in the mining companies, in the companies that have a deep involvement in the way we live in cities. It's impossible really, I suppose, to identify a perfect example. What we're really seeing is emergent thinking about how we might do things differently. So Lou, you will note at first hand that our alumni provide an enormous source of inspiration in terms of what leaders can achieve even when they are not in positions of seniority sometimes, let alone being the chief executive. I've found it very exciting and inspiring to see just how many people armed with just a bit more knowledge and information, and perhaps with a bit of the confidence that comes from having studied the subject a bit further, just to see how they can go back into their organisations and act as catalysts for change, whether they're activists or whether they go back as experts or whether they go back as kind of undercover radicals, whatever way you look at it. I think that people can change the system within which they operate, where they're armed with a little bit more confidence and knowledge, but also when they feel that they are part of a movement. You can't just be trained to do this. You actually have to take it on board and see yourself as being part of a whole system shift that leadership is really is all about in sustainability.
Sometimes change can be slow, sometimes there are setbacks and disappointment, but what's your hope? Where does your optimism come from as you engage with current and future leaders?
When I look back at how far we've come, really in the last couple of decades, I am encouraged by the fact that what seemed like an impossible challenge, the idea that somehow we could get the corporate sector to become such a positive force, is beginning to become more of a possibility. My hope is that over the next few years, and we don't have a very long time, we have to make change at speed and scale as in urgent response to the challenge we face. I suppose my hope is that this will become the new normal. It will be perfectly normal in a company, as indeed in many other walks of life, to consciously take into account the impact that your activities are having, not just on your shareholders, but on the wider community and on the environment. That people will see that as a completely unquestionable thing that you have to do if we're going to thrive in society.
Polly, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
I trust that you have gained some valuable insights regarding sustainability leadership from Polly. We've heard how good leadership and sustainability leadership have strong similarities, and how everyone has the potential to lead these important processes. Both individual and organisational leadership are critical to bring about the systemic change required. It's important for organisations to encourage and equip sustainability leaders to rise to the challenge and make a tangible impact within their sphere of influence.
Did you understand all of the concepts in this video? If you'd like to review any of the questions, click on the corresponding button.